Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us for another segment of our mental health moment. Today we have Paige Warren from Mental Health First Aid Colorado on this call with us. We're so excited for her to join. She's doing some incredible work up in Denver and for Colorado as a whole, and so we're excited to have her on this program. So Paige, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so what are we? We're like 9 weeks into this working from home. I kind of stopped counting. I also have no idea what day of the week it is, but
I know.
I was like, wait, when did I have that thing? Was that yesterday? Oh, it feels like it was 3 weeks ago. Cool.
Right. It's just the time.
Yeah.
All the
So
time.
Paige, what's something fun that you've been doing during your change in schedule and having more time at home?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard in so many ways, but a good thing is that I've been able to spend more time on a hobby that I haven't really paid much attention to for a long time. So I've been drawing a lot, which is awesome for me. I'm not amazing, but it's very fun. And yeah, it's been really fun to see like what I can come up with when you're drawing every day and when you're not going anywhere for inspiration and that kind of thing. So it's been a great experience in that regard as far as the hobby goes. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know I keep reading. My favorite thing is reading memes. And one was when someone goes to the grocery store and you're like, how is the outside world? It's just
Yeah.
your big outing is the grocery store.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's like a whole day thing.
How long can I
tomorrow
on this? But also be safe and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just started trying to plant some flowers, and I usually go for the plants that are already sprouted, but this time I was like, oh, I'm going to do some seeds. And I have 3 of the many that I that I planted. So we'll see if any more come. I was coaxing them a few minutes ago. I was like, come out, please.
Oh, and good thoughts to your plants.
I know. I was like, water, air, what do you need?
Yeah.
Come on, you can grow.
Tell me.
Exactly. Well, so tell me a little bit about what is Mental Health First Aid Colorado and what maybe is your role and what you guys do in the community at large.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mental Health First Aid Colorado, we are we're part of the Colorado Behavioral Healthcare Council. So where we sit, we help coordinate mental health first aid, which is an international and national program, but we concentrate just on Colorado. I'm a statewide coordinator, so I kind of just help all the other coordinators and instructors get the information they need and kind of connect to each other as far as funding goes, finding other instructors. So yeah, we basically concentrate on getting it out in Colorado, which we've done a great job. Even though we're at kind of a lull right now, obviously, we have reached over 75,000 people in Colorado. That's over 1% of the population, which is very cool. So yeah, we have lots more work to do, but we're pretty proud of the amount of people who have taken this 8-hour mental health first aid course. And so we concentrate on getting the word out here and spreading as much as we can mental health literacy and empathy and that kind of thing, destigmatizing.
That's so awesome. I know as an instructor for the Youth Mental Health First Aid, I just love the content and what it does for the community. And I've helped train probably over 250, 300 people here in the spring. So yeah, just seeing people get it and seeing people oh wow, I can have these hard conversations with people and I can connect them to help is so life-giving and impactful. So that's awesome. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, well, it's we just try and help you. So you're doing actual work. We're just trying to give you the structure to be able to, have the funding and whatnot. So yeah, we just appreciate all the instructors out there doing the work. I'm a youth and adult instructor myself, and I think that my favorite part is exactly what you said, is when you're talking to someone and suddenly that light bulb goes off and it's I understand why that's stigmatizing, or I understand what someone might be going through and I can put myself in their shoes better. And that's so rewarding. So I 100% agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of stigma, what are some ways that maybe you've seen or conversations you've had real briefly about how do we stigmatize mental health in our community of Colorado?
Yeah, I think every community is different, but I think what I hear a lot is stuff on the news kind of putting labels on people when we don't know, what their background is. Anytime there's some violence, the first thing is, what mental health problem did they have, rather than, looking at other factors as well. As far as in the community, you hear the word crazy and loony and all kinds of things tossed around all the time, which is something we do in mental health first aid, is we write out those stigmatizing words and get rid of them. I think just reducing people to their diagnosis or throwing around words that maybe are not accurate, like calling the weather bipolar, which I hear a lot in Colorado because we do have some up and down weather, but that's not accurate. It's not the best way to describe it. It kind of belittles the actual diagnosis. So I hear a lot here in Colorado just because of the weather, but there are all kinds of little ways that we stigmatize, and we think of mental health as different than physical health, and we think of them so separately, when, especially during a time like this, it's so important to be concentrating on every aspect of health we can during a pandemic. Whether we're stuck inside not being able to exercise, or whether we are, on our phones all day, like, we need to be thinking about the best way to keep ourselves holistically healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know even probably we were like 2 weeks into all of this and everything was like social distancing. And we were like, we should change, like, we should use the term physical distancing, because I'm like, I'm supposed to be physically 6 feet away from you, but I can still be socially and community, connected to you through community. So even just those simple things of like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. And then you're like, I even myself was like, why do I feel so socially isolated? And I'm like, oh, it's probably because I keep saying that, but like, I can still be connected to so many people just physically 6 feet apart.
That's such a good point. I never thought about just that wording. Is not great.
Yeah. So we were having a conversation about that. We're like, okay, we're going to start using the term physical distancing because there's some people now that I'm more connected to than I was 9 weeks ago. And it was because we were like, oh, we have time now to be intentional about FaceTiming or texting or whatnot. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm more connected to some people than ever. So I'm definitely not social distancing. I'm physical distancing. I think that's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit more about like what youth mental health first aid is and why why you feel it's important for community members to have that training?
Absolutely. Youth mental health first aid is, I may be biased, but I think it's amazing.
Me too.
It is for adults to learn how to better assist young people. While it sounds like it may be for young people, that's a different program that will be teen mental health first aid. Youth mental health first aid is for adults assisting young people. I think it's so important for adults to be able to, put themselves back in the shoes of a younger person and kind of better understand what today's younger person is experiencing, whether that be like the social media pressures we didn't have, all that kind of stuff, all the ups and downs of adolescence and just being a young person, how to differentiate just everyday teenagerhood from a developing mental health issue, what to do when a teen or a young person says, that they're contemplating suicide, or what to do when someone seems particularly moody or not getting enough sleep, to the point where it's a real issue. And I think it gives, just youth mental health first aid gives us all a common language to talk about these things. It makes it a little more accessible. And I think it really increases empathy and is like, oh yeah, teens are going through a lot. And sometimes we forget that. We think, young people today, blah, blah, blah. But teens have to go through all kinds of ups and downs. And to remember that, along with the fact that they may be experiencing a mental health issue, it's so important to be able to use that empathy and know how to talk to them in a way that's not condescending, and to be able to listen, I think, is such a big part of it, is just non-judgmental listening.
And we think it sounds easy, but the more you get into it, you're like, oh, this is hard, because I automatically want to start judging what they're saying or analyzing, or how am I going to respond to them when I haven't even heard what they're saying. So I think that is a huge key. I know one of the sections that I always facilitate is on identifying what's helpful and unhelpful, like when you're in a crisis situation or when you're going through something hard. And I think it's always interesting, people who take the class are like, oh yeah, like all of these really helpful things. And I was like, interesting that not one of you said, when someone gave you advice, that was helpful. And yet, like, often as adults, like, that's one of our biggest pitfalls is like, oh, we want to give you all the advice versus like,
Yeah.
you know, let's just sit with you and process with you and help you get to where you need to go versus like, when I was a kid, you know, or when I was your age.
Yeah.
I'm like 15 years out of high school and already so much has changed. So some of these other people, I'm like, it's been a little while.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, is just being able to, again, listen non-judgmentally without giving advice, like
Mm-hmm.
in both a crisis and just everyday life.
Yeah.
That's such a good lesson to learn how to do better, because I feel I'm always trying to be like, how can I fix this problem? It's not a fix, you know, I just need to sit with that person and being able to listen to what they're going through and how I can help them according to them. Meet them where they're at, I think is such a big part of youth mental health first aid. I think that's so true.
Yeah, and I think those are great things that we can even carry into like life right now. You know, people are going through some really hard things in the midst of the pandemic. And so, you know, as we as a community can learn to just sit with someone and listen non-judgmentally and be there to support them how they need it, not how we think they need it. I think can be really helpful.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, so I know like since we can't really gather with more than 10 people in some space, you know, some places, like what are some ways that people can still maybe access information of youth mental health first aid, or are there any like new things coming down to make it more available in this current state that we're in?
Yeah, great question. So it is difficult. This is usually a class that has anywhere from, you know, 5, 10, up to 30 people, which is not doable right now. So there are some places that are talking about how do we do this in a social distancing or physical distancing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that many people have been able to figure that out yet, but we're talking about it. What I'm most excited about is the offering of virtual youth mental health first aid. Which the latest news is that the instructor trainings will begin in June, which is the latest news I got this morning. Every day it changes, it seems like. But we're really excited about this opportunity where participant will take 2 hours of a self-paced online course, so they can just be at home. And then they'll take 4 hours of virtual Zoom instruction, just like this, where, you know, an instructor is talking to you and doing the activities as best as you can from home. And I haven't seen how this looks yet, but I do know that it's the newer curriculum, which they've been redoing. So I'm very excited that it'll be like gender neutral language, more cultural competency, and focus on different cultures, as well as more focus on trauma-informed stuff and like recovery and all that, like really great stuff to remember as we're moving forward, like that recovery as possible, you know, really just pushing that. And so youth mental health first aid should be available to do from your own home within the next month or so. We're very excited that that's going to be an opportunity. We don't have all the details yet, but it will be available. You can go to mental health first aid USA.org, MHFAUSA.org, or MHFACO.org is the local site, where we have the class offerings, which right now look pretty sparse because so many have been canceled. But we are really working to get that virtual out there. As far as other resources go, just being able to check back on that main website actually has like they have like a pretty good list of like resources for what to do if someone has anxiety during COVID, how to use social distance, and how do you talk to someone and use the ALGA 5-step action plan during this time? Like if you've taken the class, or even if you haven't, they're great reads just to be able to, how do you deal with this strange time? You can't be physically close to someone, but you want to help them. So there's some great resources out there for that. And then, you know, always the crisis line is open if you're having any, you know, immediate issues, or even not, like they'll talk you through the resources, whether you're in immediate crisis or not. And then obviously 911 and the SAMHSA line and all of that great stuff out there, which I'm sure has been repeated so many times, that is worth saying again.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I know I'm like super excited for, the virtual option. I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Especially because like I actually helped with this very large training in March, like 6 days before, like they were like, okay, no more gatherings. And I was like, oh, it's been 2.5 months. Like I miss teaching it, and I miss like being with the community in that capacity, like providing education and stuff. So I'm really excited for this virtual option, and yeah, figuring it out. I was like really glad they were doing something official, because I was like, we were almost at the point where we're like, okay, what can we even just do? And like
I know,
percent
yeah.
on a unofficial capacity. So
yeah. Another thing about the virtual curriculum is that everyone gets like a virtual textbook that they keep. It's like the textbook you would get in an in-person class, but it's just on your computer. You can pull it up anytime. It's got all the resources, the references, but it's formatted even better with the updated statistics for the new curriculum. So it should be really good. I haven't seen it, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm excited as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Paige, thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing that great information. We'll have all of the websites and stuff linked underneath, so we can have quick access for that. And yeah, good luck with all of your drawing and everything that you're doing. And yeah, thank you for your continued support for the mental health first aid community, and all the background work that you do that I know probably people would miss if it wasn't there, but may not always notice. So we appreciate you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for all you do. You're just such a champion of mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid in particular, and we're so lucky to have y'all on the team, so thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Paige.
Thank you.